I just haven't said anything to Christine to this point about the fight, about the lunch we had 6 weeks later where I told him I didn't want him to come back. It just was all still very fresh and very raw, and I didn't really know what it meant, but now everything is settled. I feel really comfortable communicating to Christine everything that's happened.
Last time we talked, the conversations just keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier, so who knows what's going to happen today.
Welcome back to Reality Tea, the home for everything Sister Wives, TLC insights, and the real stories behind the Brown family moments that fans can't stop talking about. Today's story takes us to a scene that's both touching and unforgettable, the first time Kody Brown and Janelle Brown reunited after their separate breakups with Kody Brown. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't scripted, it was quiet, and that's what made it powerful. The cameras caught Kody walking into a cozy Flagstaff cafe, her trademark smile soft but full of emotion. She looked different, freer, lighter, as if she had finally found her own peace. Sitting by the window, waiting, was Janelle. Her face was calm, but her eyes told another story. They had seen sleepless nights, worry, and reflection. As Kody approached, Janelle stood up. The two women shared a genuine hug, the kind that says more than words ever could. This wasn't just two former sister wives catching up. It was two friends reconnecting after walking through the same storm, separately, but side by side. Kody was the first to speak, breaking the quiet tension. "It's weird, isn't it?" she said, laughing softly. "We're both out." Janelle nodded, taking a slow breath. "Yeah," she said. "It's peaceful, but also strange. Like I'm still waiting for someone to walk through the door." You could feel the weight in that moment, years of shared life, shared heartbreak, and the same man whose choices had reshaped their worlds. But this wasn't a scene about regret. It was about two women finding their way back to themselves. Kody leaned in, her tone lighter. She joked, "I think we should start our own show, Ex-Wives of Coyote Pass." Janelle laughed for the first time that day, a real, unguarded laugh. For a split second, it felt like the old days, before jealousy, before distance, before everything changed. But the conversation quickly turned real again. Janelle glanced down at her coffee and whispered, "Sometimes I still feel guilty, for leaving, for walking away from something I thought was forever." Kody didn't hesitate. "You don't need to feel guilty. You were surviving. We both were." Their words hung in the air, full of truth and quiet strength. Fans who followed Sister Wives for years know, this was more than a catch-up. It was healing caught on camera. But just as Kody started to bring up what happened in the final days before she left Kody, Janelle's expression changed. She looked toward the window and went silent. Kody followed her gaze, and what she saw made her pause mid-sentence. There, outside the cafe, someone stood watching them from across the street. Kody froze for a second, her laughter fading as she looked through the glass. Janelle's hand instinctively went to her cup, gripping it tighter. Outside, across the street, someone stood motionless, a figure in a dark jacket, phone in hand, clearly watching. It wasn't dramatic enough to alarm the cafe, but for these two women who'd lived their lives under constant cameras, it was enough to make their stomachs drop. Kody tilted her head slightly. "Do you think that's..." Janelle exhaled through her nose. "Probably a fan. Or maybe, someone from the production team." She smiled faintly, trying to play it off, but the tension lingered. Then, almost as quickly as he appeared, the figure walked away, disappearing into the late afternoon crowd. Kody leaned back, shaking her head. I thought leaving the show would mean peace, but it's like our story never really stops following us." Janelle nodded slowly. "Yeah," she said. "Even when you walk away from Kody, somehow, he's still there." The tone of the conversation shifted again, from laughter to reflection. The noise of the cafe faded as the women fell into that familiar honesty that only longtime friends share. "I don't hate him," Janelle said softly, stirring her drink. "I just don't understand how it all changed so fast. One day it was about family, the next it was about control." Kody looked at her, not with pity, but with empathy. "He didn't change fast," she said quietly. "We just finally started seeing it." That line, "we finally started seeing it," hit Janelle hard. You could almost see the realization wash over her. This wasn't just about Kody anymore. It was about their own strength, their ability to rebuild, their freedom. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sun dipped lower outside, casting a golden light through the window, making the moment look almost cinematic. Kody broke the silence with her signature humor. She said, smirking, "I don't even miss the chaos. I just miss the snacks." Janelle laughed, loud enough that people at the next table turned to look. "That's you, always finding a way to make everything funny." but the laughter couldn't completely mask the emotion that hung between them. Beneath every joke, every smile, there was pain, the kind that comes from years of trying to make something work that was never fair to begin with. Then Christine leaned forward and said something that made Janelle's expression change instantly. "You know what's funny?" Christine said softly. "Kody texted me last week." Janelle's smile dropped. "He what?" Christine nodded, glancing at her phone as if she'd replayed the message 100 times. And that's when she whispered it, a single sentence that would shift the tone of their entire reunion. "He said, he misses how we used to talk about everything together." For the first time, Janelle didn't respond right away. Her eyes met Christine's, searching for what she really felt about that message. Christine sighed. "I didn't reply. But maybe I should have." The air thickened between them, a mixture of confusion, healing, and unfinished business. Then Janelle leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Christine, there's something you don't know." The cafe suddenly felt smaller. The chatter of other tables faded into a soft hum as Janelle leaned closer, eyes fixed on Christine. Her tone was low, steady, but her voice carried the weight of something she'd been holding back for a long time. "Christine, there's something I haven't told anyone," she said, fingers nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "Not even the crew. Not even the kids." Christine tilted her head, concern flashing in her eyes. "Janelle, what is it?" Janelle hesitated, looking out the window for a moment before speaking. "The night before I told Kody I was done, he came over." Christine's eyebrows lifted slightly. "He came to your place?" Janelle nodded. "Yeah. He said he just wanted to talk, about the show, the family, about us. But then he said something that's been stuck in my head ever since." She took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "He said, I'll always have a say in your life, Janelle, whether you want it or not." Christine's expression darkened, the humor gone completely now. "He said that?" Janelle nodded again, her eyes glistening. "I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want it to become another storyline. I didn't want it to feel like more drama for the cameras. But when I saw him watching us, that person outside earlier, for a second, I thought maybe." Christine reached out, her hand resting over Janelle's. Hey, you don't think?" "I don't know," Janelle interrupted, her voice cracking slightly. "But it made me realize something. Even when we leave him, Kody still tries to hold on to the idea that he's in control. Like he can still pull the strings from a distance." Christine's expression softened. She squeezed Janelle's hand, grounding her. "That's what control does. It lingers." For a moment, both women sat in silence again, the air thick with old memories and new realizations. The clinking of dishes and soft jazz from the cafe speakers faded behind the sound of their breathing. Then Christine smiled faintly. "You know what's different this time, though?" "What?" Janelle asked, looking up. "We're finally writing the story ourselves. No producers. No edits. No pretending." That broke the tension. Janelle smiled, a small but genuine smile, the kind that looked like release. "Yeah," she said, "just two women with too much coffee and too much history." They both laughed, and for a moment it felt like closure. But the peace didn't last long, because just as the laughter faded, Janelle's phone buzzed on the table. The name flashing on the screen made her freeze. Christine noticed instantly. "Who is it?" Janelle didn't answer right away. Her lips pressed together, the glow of the phone reflecting in her eyes. Then she slowly turned it so Christine could see. It was a text, from Kody. And the message read, "I know you're with her." Christine's jaw tightened. "He knows we're here." Janelle stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. "I didn't even post anything," she whispered. "How could he know?" The playful tone of their lunch vanished in an instant. The look they shared wasn't just surprise, it was fear, confusion, and something deeper, the haunting reminder that even after walking away, Kody's presence was still in their lives in ways they didn't understand. Christine exhaled slowly. "Maybe it's time we stop running from this," she said quietly. "Maybe it's time we finally confront him." Janelle looked up, determination slowly replacing the unease. "Together?" Christine nodded. "Together." But what neither of them realized was that before the day ended, Kody would make a move of his own. The hum of the cafe had softened into a kind of background music, cups clinking, the low chatter of strangers who had no idea they were sitting only a few feet from two women millions of fans once saw sharing the same husband. For Sister Wives viewers, this scene felt almost surreal. Christine Brown and Janelle Brown, together again, not as co-wives or competitors, but as friends beginning a new chapter of life after Kody. Janelle's phone buzzed again, the sound slicing through the quiet between them. She sighed, flipped it over, and laughed a little. "It's Madison," she said. She keeps checking to see if I'm okay eating lunch without filming a confessional afterward. Christine chuckled, tension easing instantly. Tell her you're doing fine, though I might still make you do a confessional for me later. The joke landed, the laughter this time was full and free. When the laughter faded, Janelle leaned back, exhaling slowly. You know, she said, when I signed the papers and officially ended it, I thought I'd feel angry or relieved, but mostly, I just felt tired. Like every part of me finally realized how long I'd been holding my breath. Christine nodded, her smile softening. Yeah, it's like when you've been trying to fix something for so long, you forget what peace feels like. She stirred her drink thoughtfully. I remember the morning after I left. I woke up expecting to feel guilt, but I felt light instead. For the first time in years, my house was quiet, and that quiet didn't scare me. Janelle looked down at her cup, voice low but sure. That's what I'm learning now. Quiet doesn't mean lonely. They paused again, just sitting in it, two women who had built entire lives around the idea of shared sacrifice now sitting across from each other as equals. The energy between them was something fans later described online as healing. Christine broke the silence first. You know what people keep asking me? If I'd ever go back. Janelle laughed softly. And what do you tell them? That I already did, once, to myself. Christine smiled. And that's the only going back I ever needed. Janelle smiled too, eyes glassy. That's a good answer. Outside, the Arizona sunlight shifted, painting the window in soft golds and ambers. Cameras captured the quiet beauty of that moment, two women who had once shared so much heartache now glowing in simple stillness. But the conversation wasn't over. If anything, it was just reaching its heart. Christine leaned in. Do you ever wonder if he'll watch this? Janelle shrugged. Of course he will. He watches everything. He'll probably have something to say about it too. She paused, then added with a grin, but that's fine. For once, I don't have to listen. They laughed again, a laugh full of release and strength. Around them, people kept eating, talking, living their ordinary lives. But for longtime Sister Wives fans, this small exchange was extraordinary. It wasn't about confrontation or revenge, it was about survival and friendship. Christine's expression softened. You know, when I first told him I was leaving, I thought maybe I'd feel guilty for breaking something sacred. But now I realize what was sacred wasn't the marriage, it was the women in it. The bonds we built trying to make something work. Janelle nodded slowly. And look at us now. We're still here. That line lingered. We're still here. Simple, but powerful. It echoed what so many women watching from their living rooms felt, the strength to keep going, the right to choose peace over endurance. A server passed by, dropping off a fresh pot of coffee. Another round? She asked. Christine smiled. Why not? We've got years to catch up on. They poured new cups, the steam curling between them like punctuation marks in their story. Then Janelle's voice turned reflective again. Do you ever miss the big family dinners? Christine tilted her head. Sometimes. Not the noise, just the idea that we were all trying. Even when it didn't work, we believed it could. Janelle nodded. Yeah. And maybe that's what kept us going so long. Hope. Christine smiled knowingly. And maybe that's what keeps us going now. Hope for something better. The conversation drifted to lighter memories, kids' birthdays, chaotic holiday meals, the time one of the little ones tried to feed a roll to a cat during Thanksgiving. Laughter spilled easily now. Every memory carried both ache and fondness, but no bitterness. They had learned how to hold both joy and pain in the same breath. Half an hour later, when the camera crew quietly wrapped for the day, Christine and Janelle stayed seated, unaware that filming had stopped. You know what I think? Christine said softly. I think people keep watching because they see themselves in us. The mess, the love, the mistakes. It's not about polygamy anymore, it's about choosing yourself without feeling selfish. Janelle nodded. Exactly. We're proof that walking away doesn't mean failure. Sometimes it's the beginning of peace. The light outside dimmed a little, clouds sliding in, and their reflections appeared on the cafe window, two women side by side, smiling quietly at their own reflections. Janelle sighed contentedly. It's weird, you know. For so long, we were part of the same story. Now we're writing new ones, but they still fit together. Christine grinned. Yeah, different chapters, same book. They both laughed again, genuine, easy laughter. The kind that comes when you know the worst parts are behind you. It was the sound of friendship, resilience, and freedom. Yet just as they stood to leave, the air shifted again. A producer, still packing up gear, quietly approached. Christine, Janelle, TLC just called, he said carefully. They're asking if you'd be open to filming together again, for a new project. Christine and Janelle exchanged a look. Christine raised an eyebrow. A new project? Janelle smiled warily. You mean, like a spin-off? The producer shrugged. Nothing confirmed. But they said viewers loved seeing you both together again. For a moment, neither spoke. Christine looked down, thinking. Janelle crossed her arms, half smiling. You know, she said, for the first time, that idea doesn't sound scary. Christine laughed. Maybe this time, it's our story to tell. They both grabbed their bags and walked out into the soft Flagstaff evening, the sound of traffic mixing with distant laughter, the kind of night that promised new beginnings. The cameras followed at a respectful distance, capturing one final shot, Christine and Janelle walking side by side, the glow of the streetlights washing them in gold. Christine looked at Janelle and said quietly, whatever happens next, let's make sure it's on our terms. Janelle smiled, nodding. Always. They kept walking, silhouettes against the setting sun, two women who had rebuilt their lives, still carrying pieces of the past, but no longer burdened by it. And just before the screen faded to black, Christine turned back for a moment, as if sensing the audience watching. She smiled, that knowing, mischievous smile fans had missed, and said, something tells me this isn't the last time you'll see us together. The camera lingered, letting the words hang in the air like a promise. The reunion had ended, but the story was far from over. The air outside the cafe carried that soft chill that always follows a long conversation, the kind that empties you out and fills you up at the same time. Christine and Janelle walked slowly toward their cars, the sun dipping behind the Flagstaff hills, painting the sky in gold and rose. For the first time in a long time, they weren't just walking away from something, they were walking toward something new. Janelle glanced at Christine, her voice light but curious. Do you ever think about how strange it is, all those years we spent sharing the same man, and now we're sitting here planning to share a future without him? Christine laughed softly. Yeah, maybe that's the plot twist no one saw coming. They both laughed, that easy laughter that comes from two people who have survived the same storm and finally found shelter in each other's company. But beneath the laughter, there was something deeper, the sense that this wasn't an ending, just a quiet pause before the next chapter. As they reached their cars, the conversation shifted again, softer, but more honest. Janelle leaned against her car door. Christine, you know what's been the hardest part? Christine tilted her head. What? The silence. After years of noise, of opinions, of being told how to live, suddenly it's quiet. And that quiet can be terrifying. Christine nodded, her expression thoughtful. Yeah, but that silence? That's where you finally hear yourself. Janelle smiled faintly. Maybe that's what this whole thing was leading to, not leaving Kody, but finding ourselves. Christine's eyes shimmered in the fading light. Exactly. We thought we were losing something, but we were really finding freedom. The camera caught that line, the perfect moment of reflection that would later echo through social media. Fans would replay it, quote it, and comment things like, "This is the Christine and Janelle we always wanted to see." It wasn't polished. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. Janelle opened her car door, hesitating for a second. You think people will understand us now? I mean, the real story? Christine smiled gently. They already do. That's why they're still watching. Because it's not about Kody anymore, it's about women choosing peace. Janelle nodded, closing the door softly. Peace sounds nice. Christine leaned on her window with a grin. Peace, and maybe a little revenge glow up? That made Janelle burst into laughter, and for a few seconds, the parking lot filled with their laughter echoing against the quiet night. It was the sound of closure, of two women reclaiming joy after years of living for someone else's story. But then, Janelle's phone buzzed again. She picked it up, expecting a message from one of her kids, but her smile faded when she saw the sender. It wasn't Kody. It wasn't a fan. It was someone unexpected. Christine noticed instantly. What is it? Janelle's eyes widened slightly as she read the message out loud. Hey, I heard you and Christine are talking again. Maybe it's time we all sit down, one last time. Christine frowned. Who sent that? Janelle looked up, her expression unreadable. Robin. The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time all evening, Christine didn't have a quick answer. She simply looked out at the horizon, where the last bit of sunlight was fading. Do you think she means it? Christine finally asked. Janelle exhaled, her voice low. I don't know. But if she does, that changes everything. Christine nodded slowly, her expression caught somewhere between curiosity and caution. Maybe it's time we hear what she has to say. The screen lingered on their faces, Christine's thoughtful, Janelle's uncertain, as the music swelled softly in the background. Fans would later call it one of the most powerful endings in Sister Wives history. Two women, once bound by one man, now facing the possibility of confronting the one person still tied to the old life. The camera panned upward, catching the glow of the cafe lights fading behind them. The scene ended not with answers, but with a feeling, the sense that the story wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning again. Christine took one last sip of her coffee, glanced toward Janelle, and said quietly, "Looks like the next conversation's going to be even harder." Janelle nodded. "Yeah, but maybe it's the one we've been avoiding for too long." They smiled, not as ex-sister wives, not as rivals, but as friends who finally understood that healing sometimes comes in unexpected chapters. Subscribe to Reality Tea, hit that bell icon, and don't miss what comes next, because when Christine, Janelle, and Robin finally sit down, everything we thought we knew about the sister wives story might change forever.